Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrating to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side, so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one getting all the insight. Okay, today's video, I would like to get some update and some thought about the international education sector, where we understand that there's going to be a cap putting by the government of Australia by each provider. Providers means all the schools, vet sectors, or universities, campuses by campuses. And of course, we have learned that there's a lot more restriction is going to put on upon all these education provider as well. So how that will actually affect, and some of my thoughts. Now, first of all, we have also learned that there has been secretly some invitation has been going on for the skill migration, especially a lot of people are interested about the subclass 189. So what we have done is that I would like to take you to the skill select page. However, there is actually no updates at all. Don't know what's gonna happen, but that's what I'm saying. They have secretly throwing some invites, but we do learn that most of this invitation has been given to the tradesmen. So tradesmen that they are, for example, carpenters, bricklayers, and all these tradesmen going into the skill shortage in regards to the construction sector, and the points had been given were as low as 65, as far as we have learned from numbers of sources, but there's no other professional, for example nurses and social workers. We haven't heard anything about them. A lot of people are still waiting and pending with the score of over 85 and still no invitation. So again, it's good for some people, surprise for those tradesmen. I don't know how many of them will be out there, but will be pretty limited, because for tradesmen to actually accrue points to up to 65, it's actually quite hard to be considered, and especially their supposedly their English fluencies has to be reaching possibly 8 or a long-term work experiences in order to actually hit that 65 points. So it's not that easy. If you consider a newly graduate tradesman, it will be very hard to actually get those kind of points. So I don't think there were mass numbers of invitation has been throwing, but unfortunately no other professional, for example the healthcare or teachers, so are they still in shortage? We don't know. See, we have been throwing into this what should I say, a dungeon where it's dark. We don't know what's happening from this JSA, the Job and Skill Australia provider. There are still a lot of occupation which is supposedly being in shortage, but where's the invitation? I think the goal for Australian government now is to control migration. I've experienced just one of my cases that we have submitted a employment sponsor nomination, not even the visa, and has been turned back with a refusal less than 24 hours. Now obviously we're at the very last few weeks of the financial year. I suspect they basically want to reject or refuse the application for the sole purpose of controlling migration numbers. Whether or not the government actually succeed on that, we don't know, but unfortunately it goes into expenses and costs that is non-refundable for the client, which is, I think it's really unfair. Now, I do understand there's a lot of viewers out there, they believe the system has been unjust and unfair, but unfortunately That's how the government of Australia is actually conducting and implementing their policies nowadays. And there's a lot more other unfair and unjust conducts that we have seen previously, and I suspect they will coming up with a lot more stuff, because they always we all know it's political issues, but they'll always bring migrants as the way that will throw all the complaints and the unfair policies upon. I don't know when they will change, but that's how the system will be. And it's I suppose it's similar in Canada, UK, US, and in New Zealand as well. So anyway, that's all we need, what we can do, and that is another major reason that we have created this channel, to actually bring you the transparency of what's actually happening out there. Now the next one is, obviously we have talked about on the 13th of June on the restriction of onshore visa hopping. So people holding a visitor visa, that's including subclass 600, 601, 602, 651, and plus, and also the temporary graduate, that people has already graduated, studying Australian graduate, and if they want to study further education, I'm sorry, you have to leave Australia and apply offshore. So that's gonna have a major impact to a lot of international education providers. And plus, I believe that the Minister of Education, Jason Clare, has been on media being asked in regards to the caps on the Australian educations. So it is currently unclear. And there's multiple sources that you may want to have a search answer. For example, this one from Conversations talks about international student caps are creating huge headaches for universities. No, not just universities, but also for all the other private education providers as well. Now, the one thing that I'm not really convinced by, and also I don't think it will really work well. Well, first of all, these will be my thoughts. They should strengthen the way how they, for example, utilizing the genuine student tests in a better manner, and also having a better policy to actually monitor and manage the education providers' registration. Now, that's totally different than putting on a cap. Numbers of international students that they can actually apply for or accept for per year and per quarter. Now that is a way different strategy of doing and managing the stuff. Now first thing that I can think of is that will really control and restrict the competitiveness and the fairness of all these education providers in the industry. Now, for example, who will get the most? Now, that question alone is not fair, is not just anymore, right? Obviously, the larger university gets more, but wouldn't that create an environment that the smaller competitor could never really be competitive enough if they even wanted to be in the playing field to compete against the larger competitor, which is it's almost like government control monopoly, right? If you think about this. Now obviously there will be a fair I don't know whether these providers will actually go into fair trade, because if this is a legislator under the executive power of the Australian government, how will they actually, not saying rebel, but just disagree on the policy, how they're going to do it, because first of all, it will definitely create an unfairness and unjust situation between provider and provider. It's pretty easy. Now, we're not even talking about university. What about the English college providers? There are so many private English college providers out there. Now, who gets more or who gets less? How do you control that? All right, and if you wanted to control it, that means they will lose the competitiveness, because they don't need to compete anymore. Their quota is given. Their quota is given and provided by the government. So even if they wanted to be more competitive and create more better business environment, they can't do it, right? So it's I don't really like the concept of having a cap on international education providers. Having the restriction and monitoring system on the licensing and registration, and also checking on further detailed criteria under the general student test, I think that's fine. But putting on the cap, especially on this one, is, first of all, a huge headache, not just for university, but all the education provider out there. And you think about it, even some of the university, they have different campuses. Just giving you an example, for example, James Cook University, don't need to name the big ones. They have campuses in Brisbane, they have campuses in Cairns, and they have campuses in Townsville. So which campuses gets more quota, and which course gets more quota within that campus? That's where the headache starts, and that's where it will create an unfair environment for international, and ultimately it will lose the competitiveness worldwide. So don't know how that will go, but that's personally how I thought about the situation if the policy really rolls out and implemented into the for international education sector. But we'll see what happens. We've got a couple days to go until 1st July. Anyway, should you have more question or inquiry, more than welcome to leave comment right down below. And I'll see you next video. Goodbye.